Author Jason Little is back. Jason is a versatile fiction author, exploring genres ranging from science fiction and horror to suspense and mystery. This marks Jason's second contribution to Mysteries to Die For, where he embraced the challenge of crafting a story without a trail of bodies. Discover more of Jason's work at his website, jasonlittlewriting.com. The link is in the show notes. Welcome to Mysteries to Die For. I am TG Wolff, and I'm here with Jack, my piano player and producer. This is a podcast where we combine storytelling with original music to put you at the heart of a mystery. All stories are structured to challenge you to beat the detective to the solution. Jack and I perform these live, front to back, no breaks, no fakes, no retakes. The rules for law and order create the boundaries for civil coexistence, and ideally, the backdrop for individuals and families and companies to grow and thrive. Breaking these rules puts civil order at risk. And while murder is the big daddy of crimes, codified ordinances across municipal divisions, counties, states, and countries show the nearly endless ways there are to create mayhem. This season, we put your detective skills to the test. With Season 8, Anything But Murder. And this is Episode 6, where attempted infanticide is the featured crime. This is Safe Haven by Jason Little.
A safe haven. You see, when I think of a haven, a beautiful place that, you can be all nice and happy and frolic. I mean, I know that's not what this is. Safe haven's more like police station, but, I think of a harp, Let's go for a harp. Where is the harp? I feel like it'd be in the strings.
Maybe it's right next to Issachord.
Maybe. I found the harp the other day.
Oh.
Wait, we used the harp recently, didn't we? Yeah, here it is.
I don't remember using a harp.
Yeah, we had harp 1, harp 2. It was actually an episode that was quite a while ago, but I think we ended up not going with it because it was too soft.
Yeah, you're going to have to make that whole feed louder if you're going to go with that.
Yeah, we're going to go. You know what? Let's just turn up the volume.
Should make that.
Oh, yeah.
Should make that a theme for a season. Just turn up the volume. Interpret that any way you want.
Let's do it.
Surrendered. Barrett Turner wiped the sweat from his brow and stepped further onto the dusty shoulder. A vehicle sped past, a white Nissan Rogue, and in the flash of a moment, he briefly caught Shane's gaze. His boy smiled back at him from the passenger seat of the vehicle, headed eastbound toward Dallas. Something about Carolyn's mother needing help. His wife waved hello through the tinted back window. Barrett blew her a silent kiss. "Barrett, what about me?" "What about you, Mama?" Barrett looked over his shoulder with irritation. His mama, Betty Lou, walked along the shoulder behind him, her sweat-covered face twisted with pain. Barrett was about to start walking again when Betty Lou gripped her chest and sank to her knees. Barrett turned to help her when an awful tire screech spun him around. It all happened so quickly, he barely had time to think. His family's SUV slammed headfirst into a line of cars stalled at an obstruction ahead. The force of the impact caused several cars to pancake. Others split apart. The SUV rolled into the dusty gully beside the road. The sound of the crash hit Barrett seconds later, carried along by the wind that whistled in his ears. Barrett broke into a run at the first glimmer of flames inside the Rogue's darkened cabin. He pumped his legs faster, but a cramp stopped him dead. He knelt, grabbed his hamstring, and roared with despair as the flames devoured the Rogue, leaving only its skeleton behind. The blackened frame buckled against the immense heat as the fire alarm blared. "Barrett! Barrett!" Barrett opened his eyes and quickly shot up to a seated position. "I'm up," he said while wiping his eyes. The only one in the room was Travis. Barrett sighed and laid back down. "What's the ruckus?" he asked. Barrett shook his head. "Hey, Sleeping Beauty, are you coming or what?" Barrett shook his head. Not yet. I'm going to sit this one out. Next time. I get it, man, Travis said. We all do. Maybe you should head home. For a while. Barrett exhaled through his nose and shook his head. There's nothing for me at home, he said. Not anymore. I'm better off here. You go ahead. I'll man the fort. You know we all understand, Travis said. We cool? We're cool, Barrett uttered. No biggie, you not coming. It's just a house fire, one alarm, probably kids cooking with grease again. You hang tight. Maybe we'll catch a burger and beer afterwards, yeah? Sounds good, Barrett said. He watched Travis slide down the pole to the deck below. The ringing came to a halt the moment a ping sounded from Barrett's cell phone. It was a Facebook notification from Irene Van Horten, his psycho ex-girlfriend from college. Why he added her, he wished he knew. The direct message read, I'm so sorry about your family. I'm always here for you. You know that. You can call me anytime, even just to talk. How about no? Barrett uttered. He X'd out of the message. He was about to put his phone away when he noticed a Facebook post by his mom. The message read, Sampik's prophecy has come true. Watch this video. But first, make sure any kids leave the room. Viewer discretion is advised. This is 100% real. You have been warned. Hail Sampik. Hail. Barrett clicked on the accompanying video. A 20-something young lady sat on a rock. A marshmallow smoldered at the end of a stick in her hand. She blew the puff out and offered it to the camera. Want some? She said with a smile. Nah, said the faceless man behind the camera. The camera panned right to show a wooded clearing. An orange tent stood in the center. Beside the tent, a stocky young man with a shaved head wore only shorts. The long-haired woman beside him stripped off her t-shirt to reveal a black bikini top. Her jean shorts came down next to complete the ensemble. We're going swimming, she said. You two coming? The three friends crashed through the leaves, followed by the cameraman. They ran down a dirt trail to the edge of a lake. The camera focused on the mountains in the distance as the three others jumped into the water. The shaven-headed boy splashed the two girls when something overhead caught his eye. His face fell. The camera panned up and froze on the clouds before the screen went black. The text across the screen read, "This content is no longer available." Barrett put his phone away. The wail siren from the truck downstairs filled the station before fading off into the distance. The phantom ringing still in his ears, Barrett headed down to the kitchen. He found a pot under the counter and a pack of ramen noodles in a box near the stove. He ripped the corner off the package with his teeth and was about to pour the noodles into the pot when he noticed the glitter. A festively wrapped box with a bright red bow sat on the edge of the counter. The tag bore his name. Inside the box was another cardboard box taped shut. Inside that one, he found a smaller box. You assholes, Barrett said under his breath. He continued tearing open the boxes until he got to the last one, which was the size of a postcard. That box contained 2 airline tickets leaving in 2 weeks for Rome, Italy. Barrett read the names of both passengers and clicked his teeth. A note inside the box signed by the entire department read, "We all pitched in and thought you could get away." Another alarm sounded from out in the bay. This alarm was strange, different. He was about to head back upstairs to don his equipment when recognition dawned. He set the tickets back on the table, which toppled the pack of noodles onto the floor. He glanced at the mess before running into the bay. As suspected, the light on the safe haven box blinked. He opened the box and gasped at the tiny infant laying inside. The child, which couldn't have been more than a few months old, was wrapped in a blue blanket with radiant eyes nearly the same shade. Barrett lifted the baby out and unraveled the blanket. It, in fact, was a he. The child flashed a toothless smile, and Barrett smiled back. He carried the baby into the office and cradled him close as he stepped to the bulletin board. Tacked to the board was a page explaining the safe haven protocol. He lifted his phone out of his pocket and dialed the number to Child Protective Services. "You're going to be A-OK," he told the infant when the call was done. A nice lady is going to be here in a jiffy to take you to a nice place. A safe place, I hope. Barrett sat beside the baby, sleeping on the kitchen table, when he heard a car pull up outside. A glance out the window revealed the vehicle to be midnight black Toyota Camry. A female driver stepped out dressed in a gray pantsuit. Barrett opened the door to a smiling woman who jutted out her hand. "Hi there, I'm Trisha Vickers with Child Protective Services." A placard around her neck identified her as CPS beside a grinning photo. That must be him. "This is him." Barrett handed over the baby. "I've never done this before. Do I need to sign anything or—" "Nope," Trisha said. She smoothed back the baby's hair and flashed Barrett a smile. "I'll take it from here." Barrett watched Trisha walk away. That was easy, he thought. He was about to return to the kitchen with ramen on his mind when he noticed a pacifier resting on the sidewalk. "Whoops," he muttered out loud. He scooped it up and sprinted for the Camry. He rapped on the window and called through the glass, "You must have dropped this." But then he saw what was really happening. His smile faded as he took a step back and opened the car door. The CPS official had her fingers pinched over the baby's nose. Her other hand covered the infant's mouth. She stole a look at Barrett as the door flew open, her eyes growing wide. Barrett grabbed Trisha by the arm. Her sleeve rose in the process to reveal a tattoo of a flaming meteor on the inside of her wrist. "What are you doing?" Barrett demanded as he yanked her out of the car. "Nothing," Trisha blurted. She winced when Barrett twisted her arm. "You're hurting me." "You're goddamn right," Barrett said. He threw Trisha aside, reached into the car, and plucked the baby free. He cradled the child to his chest and jogged over to his metallic red F-150. Trisha reached out a hand as if to stop him by force of will alone. "Barrett Turner," she said, "you're making a mistake. That baby is not what it seems to be. It needs to die. Hand it over. Please." "Not on your life," Barrett said. He slid into the driver's side and gently laid the baby down on the passenger side. "No car seat," he told the child. "Sorry." He sped out of the lot while looking back through the rear view. Trisha Vickers stood on the edge of the lot, her face etched with concern.
She's the concerned one? What? He just stole a baby.
How's that?
I was in the middle of my work, and this man barges into my property and steals a baby. I mean, I am concerned personally for that man's, mental well-being.
How is that for an opening chapter?
Pretty fun. Ramen.
Got your attention?
Death. Dude's got some issues, man. And then good old-fashioned attempted infanticide. Love to see it. Well, no, you don't, but still.
You don't.
All right, well, Newport chord progression. Next chapter.
Animus. Barrett pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and thumbed through his contacts as he drove. "I can't believe I'm about to call Nelson, of all people," he told the infant in the passenger seat. The baby stared back at him and cooed softly. "Right?" Barrett said back. "But who else can I call? He'll know what to do. He is the chief of police, after all. God knows how he managed that." The other side rang once before Nelson picked up. "Nelson, hey, it's Barrett. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but..." "Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm doing okay. Listen, you know those safe haven boxes?" "Right. Child abandonment made legal. Well, I had a drop-off today. I called CPS and the agent they sent over, tried to kill him. Honest to God. Her name is Trisha Vickers, and I'm afraid to even call them again." "The ER? Oh, that's a good idea. I'll head there now." Sure, go ahead. What do you want to tell me?" "Okay, no problem. I guess tell me later. See ya." "That was weird," Barrett said to the child. He reduced his speed as he pulled into the Branch River Hospital parking lot. He found a spot and stepped out of the cab with the child cradled to his chest. "You're safe, kid. Don't worry," he whispered to the boy. He carried the infant toward the sliding door of the ER. An orderly in blue scrubs rushed out to greet him. "What have we here?" the orderly said. "I'm Barrett Turner with the Branch River Fire Department. This baby was left in the safe haven box. I called CPS, but the woman they sent attacked him." "You're kidding," the orderly said. His name tag read Alexander Mickelson. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and studied the baby over. "Is he hurt?" "I don't think so," Barrett said. "I got there just in time. He hasn't cried once." "I'm not sure if that's normal. I'm out of practice with babies." I called the police chief and he suggested I bring him here. Who knows what other nutcases they may dispatch if I try calling CPS again. "I don't blame you," Alexander said. "You did the right thing. I'll take it from here." He reached out and Barrett handed the baby over. In the process, he caught a glimpse of a yellow and black tattoo on the inside of Alexander's wrist. The scrubs he wore obscured the bulk of the design, but Barrett swore he saw flames. Concerned, Barrett asked, "Take care of him, okay?" "Of course," Alexander said. "Did you say your name is Barrett?" "Yes, Barrett Turner." "Well, Barrett, don't worry. This lovely child is in good hands." Barrett watched Alexander step through the automatic doors and into the hospital lobby. The orderly whispered to the infant as he maneuvered past the front desk and into an area blocked off by curtains. Barrett looked around the lobby. The people seated in the waiting room watched him as he turned and prepared to leave. He took a single step when he suddenly spun and thrashed through the lobby. A woman seated behind the desk cried out as he passed it, "Sir? Sir!" Barrett paid no attention. He slipped past the curtain to an area flanked on either side by bedridden patients. He passed through an open door and into a hallway. Beside him was a door marked Stairs. Barrett slipped into the stairwell and was met with the sound of pounding footsteps from above. He took the stairs 2 at a time, a move he repeated countless of times while on duty with the fire department. He made it to the roof in record time and barely broke a sweat. He opened the door and stepped out onto the tarred surface of the hospital roof. A cold gust nearly knocked him over. Alexander stood at the roof's ledge. His scrubs whipped around his body like a flag as he held the baby outstretched over the void. Barrett ran as fast as his legs would carry him. He pulled Alexander away from the edge by the scruff of his collar, tore the baby from the killer's arms, and wrapped him in his own. Breathless from anxiety rather than exertion, Barrett thanked God the baby was okay. "What are you doing?" Alexander demanded. "Me?" Barrett shouted to be heard over the wind. "This is a baby. What the fuck are you doing?" "That baby needs to die," Alexander said. The orderly looked psychotic with spittle flying from his lips as he ranted. "If you don't kill him, you're dooming humanity to a fate worse than death." Barrett gripped Alexander's wrist and peered down at the meteor tattoo. "Just what I thought. Do you know Tricia Vickers? You're both crazy. What is going on?" Barrett turned and ran back toward the stairwell. Alexander cried after him, "Extinction! Extinction!" Barrett carried the baby to his truck. He laid him on the passenger side and started the engine. Despite his ordeal, the baby did not cry a single tear. "You're one tough kid, Davy," he said to the child. "Do you like that name? I think it suits you. I'm going to do what I can to keep you safe." He pulled out his phone and kept it tucked against his chin as he drove. Distracted driving laws be damned. "Nelson, it's me again. You'll never believe this. I almost don't believe it myself." Malfeasance. Barrett watched the black and white cruiser pull into the Walmart parking lot. He waved his arm out the open window. The police vehicle parked beside him, and the deputies stepped out. The bulky man with the buzz cut and beady eyes asked him, "Is that him?" Barrett thought about commenting on what a stupid question that was, but nodded his response. The officer held out his hands. "The chief said I'm to take the baby to the station." "I know," Barrett said. "I just spoke with him. I'm going along, too." "No need," said the deputy, whose name tag read M. Carruthers. "The chief said I'm to take the baby alone, for his safety." Barrett handed Davy over. His cell phone rang while Officer Carruthers laid the child on the cruiser's passenger side. Satisfied with the situation, Barrett answered the call from Travis Grimes, his colleague and closest friend. "Oh, hey, Travis," he said. "I know, I left everything unlocked, but I had to leave in a hurry. Someone put a baby in the safe haven box. I followed protocol and called CPS, and the crazy bitch tried to, she tried to kill the kid. Wait, seriously? Where was I? Oh, right, I have been sleeping a lot lately. What did she look like? Yep, that was her. No shit. I'm here with the police officer now. I'll fill you in later. Yes, those were my ramen noodles. I'll clean up when I get back. Oh, by the way, the tickets. Barrett laughed. Yes, I thought the box was funny. Thank Frank for me. Look, those tickets were real thoughtful and all, but good luck getting Mama on a plane. Thanks, man, and thank the rest of the guys. We'll talk about it later. Talk to you soon. Barrett ended the call. He watched as a black and white pulled out of the spot and rolled gently toward the exit. I didn't check his wrist, Barrett muttered out loud. He squeezed the steering wheel with both hands, threw the truck in reverse, and backed out of the spot. He waited until Officer Carruthers pulled a right on Taft Boulevard before starting his pursuit. He drove slowly, always making sure the cruiser was at least 2 car lengths ahead of him. Carruthers sped quickly to the end of a block, then turned right so hard the back end of the cop car fishtailed. Barrett increased his speed. Barrett gave chase through a residential neighborhood. Several times he nearly clipped a parked car, but managed to keep his eyes on the officer's tail. When they came to a stoplight, the cruiser sped through the red light and nearly got T-boned in the process. Barrett had no choice but to wait for the light to turn green. By the time he raced to the end of the block, the police vehicle was nowhere in sight. Each time he pulled through an intersection, he looked left and then right. He nearly passed another intersection when he got the intuition to turn left. There, at the end of the block, sat the patrol car parked alongside a bridge. The officer stood leaning against the railing with the baby held out over the open water. Barrett slammed on the brakes and jumped out of the truck. He ran at Officer Carruthers and hollered, "Freeze!" The officer flinched and glanced over his shoulder. Barrett took the opportunity to sock Carruthers across the jaw. Officer Carruthers went sprawling to the pavement as Barrett, with a surge of adrenaline, somehow managed to catch the baby, who nearly fell into the rushing water below. "You can't hit a cop," Carruthers exclaimed, holding the lower part of his face. A tattoo on the inside of his wrist looked mighty familiar. "Watch me," Barrett said. "Give me the kid, Barrett Turner," Carruthers hollered. "Don't be taken in by his human visage. He's evil. Evil to the core." Barrett ran back to his truck. He laid Davy in the passenger seat and sped past the officer without looking back. "I know where to take you," he told the infant as he increased his speed and hoped the officer would not follow. Provocation. Barrett came to a stop in front of a quiet, yellow-framed house. He stepped out, holding Davy, and glanced all around the darkened windows. Thankfully, no faces stared back. His footsteps quickened as he raced up the driveway and rounded the house to the back door. He let himself in with his key and breathed easy that, finally, they were safe. "Mama?" he cried out. "Mama, where are you?" "Here," came his mother's voice from the rear of the house. Barrett carried Davy to the back bedroom. He toted in his other hand a bottle of Milo's extra sweet iced tea. He found his mother seated at her computer. She spun when he entered the room. On the screen was a black-haired gentleman with piercing dark eyes, frozen in mid-sentence. "Barrett," his mother said, "what a pleasant surprise. But you're a day early." "A day early for what?" Barrett asked. His eyes fell on the calendar beside the computer monitor. The 13th of October was circled in bright red. A greeting card in the shape of a pickle man wearing a birthday hat and sunglasses was tacked to the bottom of the page. "Your birthday, right," Barrett muttered. "You forgot," Betty Lou said with a grimace. "My friends didn't forget." She lifted the tack and unfolded the pickle card to show Barrett the bold-faced words inside. "Your special day is a huge ordeal. Happy birthday." A separate message was scribbled in pen. Barrett leaned in closer to read more clearly. "To Samich Pickleson, on your special day," he read aloud. Now it was his turn to grimace. "Isn't that Betty Lou Turner BLT joke just a little stale by now?" Betty Lou shrugged. At least it's better than bacon, like they used to call me in first grade when I was a short, fat thing. I didn't forget your birthday, by the way, Barrett said. He quickly changed the subject by pointing to the man gracing the computer screen. Is that Nelson? Who? She asked. Nelson, Barrett said. Kessler. Your college roommate? Betty Lou asked. Didn't he get appointed as chief of police or something? That's him, Barrett said. He again pointed at the screen. Looks just like him. Oh, it does not, Betty Lou said. That's Sampic. Sampic? Barrett asked. What kind of name is that? Wait, isn't that the guy that caused all those suicides last year? It's a fine name, Betty Lou said. And those lost souls committing suicide had nothing to do with him. Some people are depressed and take the easy way out. What people do is no one's fault but their own. Sampic is a prophet who had a dream that came true, and... Is that a baby? Barrett laid Davy down on his mother's bed. I need you to watch him for a few minutes. Whose baby is that? She persisted. Someone dropped him off at the station. I need you to watch him, Mama, please. I brought your favorite iced tea. He handed over the bottle. A bribe? She smirked. Barrett let out a drawn-out, no, and it's not your birthday gift either, if that's what you're thinking. I planned on getting you something else. Sure you did, Betty Lou said. Thank you for the tea. She accepted the bottle. But I can't watch a baby. I can barely take care of myself. Barrett shook his head with exasperation. You have time to post stupid videos on Facebook, but you can't watch a kid for 5 stinking minutes? Oh, you saw the video? His mama asked. She lowered his voice. It's not stupid. It's real. And I've been thinking. That meteor arrived the same day as the crash. I bet it distracted Carolyn when it fell to the earth, and that's why... Barrett showed his palm. What the hell are you talking about? Sampic dreamed about it, and it happened, she explained. The meteor landed here that day, the day Carolyn and Shane died. Barrett stared icily at his mother. I don't know what you're going on about right now, but I don't want to hear it. Betty Lou covered her face and mumbled as she sobbed. You never care about the things I find important. I wish for once you'd give a damn about me. Don't start, Mama. You always do this. You pull these same shenanigans on that day. There you go again, Betty said as she jutted out her quivering chin. Always blaming me for what happened. I did not call you that day. It's not my fault you weren't with them. Yes, you did. Barrett sighed. You said you were having a cardiac attack. You mean a heart attack? She asked. Barrett shook his head. That's how you said it. I thought it was weird at the time, but I was worried. About me, she gasped sardonically. Well, that's a first. Barrett tore at his hair. I do everything for you. You know I do. And you know what? I'm not going to do this right now. Davy broke into a high-pitched wail for the first time that day. Barrett pointed sharply down at the boy. See what you did? He exclaimed. He knelt beside the bed and soothed Davy until the infant quieted down. Point is, Betty Lou said, it was not my fault what happened to your family. It was probably the meteor. Meteorite, Barrett groaned. If you're going to go all QAnon, at least be factually correct. A meteor that lands on Earth is called a meteorite. If one did land, there'd be news reports. Someone would have filmed it. I thought you saw the video, Betty Lou said. Someone did film it, so you didn't see the video after all. You need to watch all 3. Sampic just released the 3rd one today. Watch this. Betty Lou turned toward her computer. Oh, Jesus, Barrett said. I don't know what garbage you've been filling your head with, but you need a hobby. Why don't you start a garden or... Well, you were an English teacher. You once talked about writing a book. Why don't you start writing again? Betty Lou placed a hand to her chest. I have been writing, she said meekly. Good. That's good, Mama. Do you want to read some? Come look. She turned toward her computer. Barrett put his hands over his face and rocked his head back. Not right now, okay? I'm leaving this baby here on the bed. You will watch him. Find your motherly instinct. I know it's there, even for a damn second. After a long pause, Betty Lou asked, Where did it come from? The safe haven box, at the station. I told you. I'm trying to get him help." "Someone left it?" she said flatly. "Him," Barrett corrected. Betty Lou rolled her hands to indicate her impatience. "Where did him come from?" Barrett threw up his hands. "That's what I'm trying to find out." He tore through the house and out the door. He had his phone in his hand by the time his right foot hit the back stoop. He dialed Travis, but ended the call before it rang. Who could he really trust? What if everyone in town had gone crazy? Was it something in the air? A toxin in drinking water? He scrolled to Nelson's contact, but couldn't bring himself to dial. Even Nelson's deputy had tried to kill Davy, a poor, defenseless child. Barrett knew he needed someone of authority who didn't live in town. And while he found it frustrating to receive a Facebook message from Irene Van Horten that very morning, he decided to take his psycho ex-girlfriend turned federal agent up on her invitation to call. As the phone rang in his ear, he laughed humorlessly to himself. Here he was calling the one person he swore he'd never talk to again after she tried to kill herself following their tumultuous breakup over a decade ago. "Irene, hey, it's Barrett. Yeah, it's been a long time. I know you have a boyfriend, but... Oh, you broke up. I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not why I'm calling. Do you think you could meet me? Do you remember where my mom lives?" Barrett glanced at the back door. "She's fine, thanks. Think you could meet me here?" "I'm good. I'm more than good. I need your help." "Thank you. I really appreciate it." Irene. Barrett heard Irene's footsteps on the driveway before she rounded the corner. She smiled when she saw Barrett seated on the back porch of his mother's house. She wore a dark blue shirt, matching hat and khaki pants. The shirt and hat bore the yellow letters FBI. "Hey," Barrett said. "Thank you for meeting me." "Sure," Irene said. I could hear the panic in your voice through the phone. Is everything okay?" She looked at the back door. "You sure your mama's okay?" Barrett waved dismissively at the house. "Miss Drama Queen is fine. Come in. I have something, or someone, to show you." Creasing her brow, Irene dutifully followed Barrett inside the house. Barrett stood beside Irene as they both watched the baby happily writhe in Betty Lou's arms. His mother laid the infant down on the ottoman and gently rocked him by his stubby legs. Davy cooed and looked up at Irene. At that moment, he started to wail. "It's only the second time Davy's cried since I first laid eyes on him," Barrett said. "He must be overwhelmed by all the attention." "Davy," Irene said. "You named him?" She and Betty Lou locked eyes. Barrett shrugged. "He looks like a Davy, don't you think?" "Sure," Irene said. Betty Lou leaned close to Davy and intoned, "He has a birthmark right over his right eye." Barrett leaned in and uttered, "Huh, I didn't notice that before. Cute." "He is cute," Irene said. The child continued to cry, to which Irene added, "Maybe Davy's hungry." She started for the kitchen. "Betty Lou, do you still have that iced tea you used to love?" "In the fridge," Betty Lou called over her shoulder. "Barrett brought me more today." Betty Lou stood up. "Speaking of fridge, you know what? I have baby food." Barrett reared his neck back. "Why do you have baby food?" "When I got my dentures, the dentist recommended baby food as one of the things I could eat while my mouth was healing." Betty retreated to the kitchen. She passed Irene on the way back holding a full glass of iced tea. Betty Lou returned a moment later with an open jar of baby food and a spoon. "I had all them teeth pulled, remembered?" Barrett scoffed. "Mama, you were an English teacher. Why do you talk that way?" "Oh, I do it for the ironic levity. Gotta keep myself sane somehow, being how lonely I am." Irene broke the uncomfortable tension. "Baby food. How serendipitous." She knelt beside the ottoman where Davy lay on his back. She gently unwrapped the baby and felt the padding on his diaper. He needs to be changed." "Crap," Barrett said. Precisely, Irene said. Barrett looked at his mother. Mom, I don't suppose you have any diapers? I'm not that old, Betty Lou quipped. Irene waved a hand at Barrett as she looked over the baby. I can pick some up in a second. I noticed a store down the street. Is Davy why you called me? Yes, Barrett said. I'll fill you in. He looked at Betty Lou before adding, in private. I'll be outside, she said, before making a demure exit. I always thought she was good for you, Betty Lou said when Irene was out of earshot. Don't start, Mama. I'm married. Betty Lou raised her eyebrows. She opened her mouth to speak, but shut it right back. She dipped the spoon into the jar of food and brought it to the baby's mouth. Barrett caught a whiff of the noxious odor that made him pause on his way out the door. He reached down and slapped the spoon out of Betty Lou's hand. Hey! Betty Lou shouted. Barrett grabbed the jar of orange goop and brought it to his nose. He quickly took it away when the smell of bleach assaulted his nostrils. I can't believe you, he scolded. He looked at his mother with contempt. Betty Lou stood and pointed down at the child. The birthmark, Barrett. Sampic predicted this. That child is not human. Kill it. Kill it now before it destroys all of us. Not you too, Barrett said. He scooped Davy into his arms and made for the door. He turned around a single time and stabbed the air with his finger. You are going into a nursing home when this is all over. Unless you kill that baby, Betty Lou said, there won't be a nursing home to send me to. Barrett shook his head and carried Davy out of the room. I just realized that I forgot to tell people that this is part 1 of a 2-part episode.
So get ready for another episode next week or in 2 weeks. Which one?
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
We have 2 more parts to this first half of the story.
Yeah.
And then we will finish it, have the deliberation and the wrap-up in 2 weeks.
You just had to cough one sentence before the end of the chapter.
I did.
You were so close.
So
you almost
close.
made it. Bummer. Well, anyway, so a lot of people want to kill this baby.
A lot of people want to kill this baby.
Sampic. What an interesting name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a baby murderer or a demon baby murderer. I don't know, whatever this baby is. It's not human. Oh, a star baby. Star child? Oh my gosh, they're killing Kiss. That explains it. It makes sense all to me now.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go murder Star Child. Sounds like a great next step for this this beautiful podcast.
We're going into conspirators.
Oh, yay. Mr. Little can write about more dead babies. Almost dead babies.
Almost dead babies.
Almost. All right. New chord progression.
Barrett and Irene sat in his truck overlooking the lake at Redburn Park. A freshly changed Davy rested in the rear seat, cooing without a care in the world. Barrett shook his head. I can't believe she tried to harm Davy. Mama of all people. Is she going senile? Irene asked. Barrett shook his head and exhaled through his nose. I don't think so, he said. After a beat, he added, now that you mention it, there may be some signs. She's made at least one phone call she doesn't remember. It was the day that... It doesn't matter. He looked over at Irene. Are you going to arrest her? I didn't see anything, Irene said. I'm just glad Davy wasn't hurt. Me too, he said solemnly. Irene turned in her seat to face Barrett. All right, let's break this down. Someone left Davy in the safe haven box, and we now have 3, scratch that 4, alleged cases of attempted infanticide. Alleged nothing, Barrett said. I saw them with my own eyes. Mama kept mentioning the Sampic guy and this meteorite. The 3 nutjobs who tried to kill Davy had meteorite tattoos. Wait, back up, Irene ordered. Sampic? Barrett nodded. I read about him in the news not long ago. He's some cult figurehead that caused a bunch of suicides overseas last year. There was at least one in the States earlier this year. Something about the world coming to an end. I thought it was Nelson at first. Looked just like him. Nelson who? She asked. Nelson Kelsler, Barrett said. We roomed together in college and we all hung out. Oh, right, Irene said slowly. Nelson, you two used to be best friends. Wasn't he with Carolyn before you two got together? That's a fact, Barrett said with a sigh. I spoke with him today. He's the chief of police here in Branch River. Get out! Irene shook her head. Who would have expected that? Well, he's the one who sent the cop who tried to kill Davy. A cop, Irene said. Right? I almost can't believe it myself. Like firefighters, cops are meant to serve, not murder innocent kids, Barrett said. Idiot tried to throw Davy off a bridge. M. Carruthers was his name. And get this. Travis at the station said a girl with brown hair came and replaced the Safe Haven protocol flyer at the station just yesterday. Trisha Vickers had brown hair. Can you run those names? Trisha Vickers, she's with CPS. Alexander Mickelson, he's an orderly at the hospital. And this M. Carruthers, the cop. Irene looked into the back seat at the cooing Davy. Assuming those are their real names, they shouldn't be too hard to track down. In the meantime, maybe it's worth finding whoever dropped the baby off. It might tip us off as to why there's such a big target hanging over little Davy's head. What are you thinking? Barrett asked. The Safe Haven box is anonymous. There were no cameras. Irene unwrapped the blanket from around the baby and let it dangle from her hand. She showed the tag to Barrett. Bibs and bottles, she said, reading the small print. I'm betting this is a local boutique. If not, I can at least use the UPS code to determine where it came from and which store around here sells it. Let me make a phone call and we'll start there. Barrett looked uneasily at Irene. Will you get in trouble for that? I have a few favors owed to me. I think it's time to call one in. She laid a reassuring hand on Barrett's shoulder. Don't worry, the good guys are here to help. Barrett watched Irene step out of the truck with her cell phone pressed to her ear. Caleb. Barrett waited in the truck while Irene ran into Bibs and Bottles Children's Boutique. She emerged 20 minutes later wearing a wide grin and a slip of paper tucked between her fingers. She shut herself inside the truck and said, "Park there." She pointed to a parking spot. "Yes, Miss Daisy," Barrett grumbled. "Just for a sec," Irene said as she playfully slapped his arm. "We got a hit." Barrett parked and turned in his seat. What did you find out? The owner, Diane Reschke, went on and on about how fewer people are having kids these days. It's a real travesty, and not only for her sales, according to her. What does this have to do with Davy? Barrett said. It means, Irene began with a smile, that fewer people are buying kids' supplies. Only 3 people have purchased this type of blanket in the past month, and all 3 paid with a credit card. Great, Barrett said. So all we have to do is track down these 3 people and ask if they abandoned a baby this morning. I suspect we only have to track down 1. How's that? Moments later, Barrett and Irene sat in his truck. They both looked out at a red bricked house with the address 6214 in black letters beside the front door. A flower bed held 2 rows of white begonias. The mailbox was decorated like an American flag. Irene said, Diane described him as sketchy and injured. Barrett reared his neck back. Injured? How? Not sure, Irene said. That's how she described him. Covered in bandages were her exact words. His name is Caleb Hampstead. She looked over at Barrett in the driver's seat. Remember, you didn't get that from me. Barrett made a zipping motion across his lips. He exited the truck and waited for the car to pass before crossing a road. He hopped the steps onto the porch and rapped a knuckle against the metal screen door. The door inside opened a moment later. Peering out at him from behind the screen was a man with pale skin, dark eyes, with a mop of curly black hair. Cale Hampstead? Barrett said. Yes. Can I help you? The confused man asked. I'm Barrett Turner of the Branch River Fire Department. Did you leave a baby in the safe haven box at the station this morning? Caleb shushed Barrett. In one swift motion, he opened the screen door and shut the main door behind him. He looked around at the neighboring yards and showed both of his palms. White bandaging peeked out from the sleeve of his right wrist, which he conspicuously tugged his sleeve to cover. "This is ridiculous," Caleb spat. "The safe haven law dictates that I remain anonymous. You're not supposed to come to my house. I'm protected. By law." Barrett made a soothing motion with his hands. "Relax," he said. "I'm not here because you're in any kind of trouble. I merely need to ask a few questions." Caleb relaxed, but only slightly. "What questions, and how did you find me, anyway?" "One of the firefighters at the station recognized you." Barrett lied. He quickly changed the subject. There was only one question Barrett wanted an answer to. "Can you think of any reason why anyone would want to hurt that baby?" "Hurt it," Caleb said. "Him," Barrett said sharply. "Him, right. Of course not. Who would hurt a baby?" "It's a good question," Barrett said. "And the reason I'm here, is the baby yours?" Caleb pursed his lips and cocked his head. "I'm 55, man. Do I look like I'm virile enough to sire a child?" Barrett shrugged. "Steve Martin had a kid in his 60s. Robert De Niro and Al Pacino both had kids in their 80s. "The answer is no," Caleb said. "My wife had her tubes tied years ago, and I'm pretty sure my swimmers are no longer freestyling, if you know what I mean." Barrett had to accept his answer as true. "So where did the baby come from?" Caleb stayed at Barrett a moment. He audibly exhaled. "Fine, okay, fine, listen. I didn't know what else to do. My wife will kill me if we get in trouble over this." "No one's getting in trouble," Barrett said. "Please, tell me." "I was on my route," Caleb began. "Your route?" Barrett interrupted. Caleb nodded. "I deliver mail. I was on my route and I heard this woman screaming. I opened her front door and found her in her living room. She was giving birth. When I asked her what I should do, when what?" Barrett demanded of Caleb when he trailed off. The mailman glanced over his shoulder. "She burst." Caleb furrowed his brows. "She burst?" Caleb nodded. "Just like I said, she burst open. Blood went everywhere, like a water balloon full of blood. It covered every square inch of that house. I was standing inside, and I'm amazed I didn't get any on me." "She died?" Barrett asked. "Obviously." The color drained from Caleb's face. "I found a towel in the kitchen and wet it in the sink and grabbed the baby. He wasn't crying or nothing, but he was alive. I keep a pocket knife on my belt for protection, dogs and whatnot while I'm delivering. I used it to cut the umbilical cord and took the baby. Took him here. I took him home." "The mother is dead?" Barrett asked again. "Yes, all right," Caleb shouted, then quickly lowered his voice. "I didn't know what to do. My wife didn't want to take care of any baby. We have 3 and they're all grown. She suggested I call anonymously. I looked it up on Google and I found your station. The safe haven box. I thought that would be the end of it." "Did you call anybody about the body?" Barrett asked. "I was afraid I'd be charged with murder," Caleb said. No, I didn't." Patiently, Barrett asked, "What was the address?" 4720 Conclave Avenue. I'll never forget it. "Am I going to prison?" "I told you," Barrett said. "I'm not here to get anyone in trouble, but I will have to report it." "I understand." Caleb lowered his eyes. "I feel terrible. I haven't slept a wink since that happened 2 days ago. I at least got the baby a blanket. It was the least I could do." 2 days ago?" Barrett said. "Davy, the kid, he's way more than 2 days old." "I'm telling you what I know," Caleb sneered. "You don't want to believe it? That's fine by me." "Okay," Barrett said, "I believe you. Thank you. And as for getting you in trouble, I can see the guilt on your face. That's punishment enough for you leaving that woman how you did." "I'm not a bad person," Caleb said. "I wrapped him in a blanket, made sure he was comfortable." Barrett turned and began to walk away when Caleb gripped his arm. "Wait, there's something else. I'm not surprised anyone would want to hurt that child." "What?" Barrett said. "Why?" Caleb whispered, "Have you seen its eyes? Look at the eyes. That baby is evil." Barrett shook out of the man's grip. "What happened to your arm? You didn't recently get a tattoo, did you?" "A tattoo," Caleb said. "Never. He lifted his sleeve to reveal a bandage that ran all the way up his arm. I was grilling, and I got burned. It was an accident. Barrett walked back to the truck in a daze. He slid into the cab and looked over at Irene, who sat on the floor between the front seat and the dash. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I didn't want him to see me," she said. Barrett started the truck and pulled away from the curb. Irene waited until they passed through the stop sign to right herself and fasten her seatbelt. "I've got some odd news to relay," she said. "While you were talking to old Caleb, I made a couple calls. Guess what? CPS in town never received a call, and they never sent any woman to any firehouses. They've also never heard of Tricia Vickers. I called the hospital, and I'm sure you can guess, but no Alexander Mickelson." "This is so crazy," Barrett said. "I feel like an idiot." "From how you described them, anyone would be fooled," Irene said. "Professional placard and an orderly uniform? Don't beat yourself up." She looked out the back window at Caleb's house that slowly shrunk in the background. "What did you find out?" "The guy's crazy. What he said doesn't make sense." What did he say?" she asked. "Frankly, he was ranting. Like a madman," Barrett said. "But, let me check on something. I'm going to put this to rest." Barrett took out his cell phone and dialed a number for the third time that day. "Nelson, it's Barrett. What do you mean?" "I was there. Your deputy showed up and took the kid." "What do you mean he showed up and I wasn't there? His name was M. Carruthers." "You're joking." "Really?" Barrett looked over at Irene as he spoke into the phone. "Look, Nelson, I don't know what's going on, but I got an anonymous call right now about a body. I think you should check it out. 4720 Conclave Avenue. Can you send an officer there? And can you keep me updated? Thanks." Barrett ended the call. He stopped by the side of the road and took a moment to breathe. "Caleb called the baby evil." "What?" Irene asked. "He said to look into his eyes." Barrett looked over his shoulder into the back seat. Davy stared back at him, his normally blue eyes shining a deep red. "Holy shit!" Barrett shouted as he jumped out of the cab. He placed his hands on top of his head and backed up a step. After a deep breath, he peered through the window at the rear seat. "What's wrong?" Irene said. "His eyes," Barrett said. But Davy's eyes, as he stared back, were the baby blue. But Davy's eyes, as he stared back at the baby, shone a clear blue. Once again, I messed up the last line.
Last line, you got a bad reputation.
Oh my goodness. Well, we are going to call this one a break here.
A break?
What are you thinking so far?
I don't even know, man. This is weird. He is a demon baby, I tell you what. Star Child is here to eat souls.
You are buying it?
I'm buying it. Look, his eyes are red. There's enough going on for it to be real, I think.
Well, we will find out in 2 weeks.
We will.
Until then, though, I'll give you a little bit of background on Jason Little.
Sounds good to me.
So Jason is a Texas-based writer with a knack for spinning tales that keeps readers hooked. His contributions to Mysteries to Die For are packed with twist, suspense, and unforgettable characters. When he's not crafting mysteries, he's writing fiction on his blog at jasonlittlewriting.com, where you can dive more into his stories and musings. A life insurance agent by day, Jason is also a proud dad of 2, a loving fiancé, and a dog enthusiast. He is big on exploring VR worlds, staying active, and finding inspiration in everyday life. You can follow him on X at JasonLWriter and stay updated on his latest projects. I wrote a little bit about the safe haven boxes that I was going to wait for the end, but I think I'll do it now, given everything that's happened so far. So I'm not going to research and give you all stories of infanticide. But I did look up the background, and interesting enough, I'd known a little bit about this because the Safe Haven baby box was invented actually very close to where Jack and I live. So many states have laws that allow for the safe and legal surrender of infants, something that was developed to enact and combat the abandonment of babies. I didn't find any statistics on it. Maybe I'll look for it for the next episode. But apparently, desperate parents were just abandoning infants, and then, of course, a lot of them didn't survive. So these laws were meant to give struggling parents an option. Founded in 2015 by Monica Kelsey of the small city of Woodburn, Indiana, Safe Haven baby boxes are constructed so that they hold a baby very similar to a bassinet. These are then installed in secure locations like a fire station and have alarms to indicate to those inside that a child has been placed in it. The babies are attended to within minutes, both with just attention and medical attention if they need it, and then ultimately entrusted to the local child protection services. So their website is www.shbb.org. It is a nonprofit. And then there's also a Wikipedia page with a little bit broader background on the creation of Safe Haven baby boxes. Isn't that kind of cool? I met Monica Kelsey's husband was the mayor of Woodburn, so I met him at a few work events.
Oh, yeah?
Really, really nice, really good people. In the Wikipedia page, it talks about how she learned as an adult that she was an abandoned baby.
Oh.
So it's always really heartwarming when, people take the things that could have been tragedies in their life and turn them into something that makes other people's lives better.
Yeah. My in-laws live over in Woodburn.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I've been there a couple of times. It is, for a while, it held the record as Indiana's smallest city.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe not record. What would you say? The honor, the privilege of being Indiana's smallest city?
I don't know. I know the smallest city in all of existence, but in the USA is Beaufort, Wyoming. It's like got a post office, a gas station, and like one other thing, and it's an apartment over top the post office, and it's like barely qualifies. It's the smallest town.
This is actually the smallest city because there's requirements to be cities and towns. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Mysteries to Die For. Support our show by subscribing, telling a mystery lover about us, and giving us a 5-star review. Check out our website, m2d4podcast.com. That's the letter M, the number 2, the letter D, the number 4, podcast.com for links to all this season's authors as well as past seasons. Mysteries to Die For is hosted by TG Wolff and Jack Wolff. Safe Haven is written by Jason Little. Music and production are by Jack Wolff. Episode art is by TG Wolff. Join us next week for a toe tag, which is the fresh chapter from a first release, or a first chapter from a fresh release in the mystery, crime, or thriller genre. Then come back in 2 weeks for the conclusion to Safe Haven. All right, Jack, take us out.